Chad, really appreciate being able to get some of your time today. I know you've got a very busy schedule. So for those of you who know Chad already, you'll know how busy he is. So we're lucky to get 30 minutes of his time. So maybe before we start, Chad, you can tell us a little bit about yourself. So I'll actually just move this forward. What's your current role over at Field Fastener?
Sure, Mark. I'm the director of IT here at Field. Came into the organization back in 2005, brought in as part of the ERP conversion that we utilize today, which is Profit 21. And my role here is, I was brought in to drive the utilization of the technologies that we were implementing, specifically P21, and then of course, as we've gone down the road, the current and the future technologies that are going to help us reach the goals of the organization and support both our internal and external customers, as Cody mentioned earlier.
Well, thank you. Now, you and I have known each other for quite a while. I think we probably first met each other almost 10 years ago at an Epicor conference, and it was Activent back at the time. And you were there in your role as head of IT, looking at Profit 21 and add-on solutions, which Connexion was part of at that time for the Epicor ecosystem. How long have you been with? So you said 15 years now, Chad, with Field Fastener?
That's correct. Just hit 15 last year. This year will be 16. So yeah.
Wow, congratulations!
It's been a great ride.
Yeah. So for the folks who are joining us that don't know Field Fastener, maybe you can tell people joining us a little bit about the company, sort of what business you're in, the markets you serve, where you're located.
Sure. We're a fastener distributor located just outside Chicago in Rockford, Illinois, kind of where our headquartered. We were founded in 1976 by a gentleman named Dick Field, and that's how we became Field. It was purchased by Bill and Jim Derry in 1990. They just recently celebrated a 30-year anniversary last November. Wow. When they purchased it. And a fastener distributor kind of started as a small Rockford distributorship here. Fastener distributor has grown tremendously. We are now global. We have facilities in Mexico, one in Taiwan, and a couple of others located throughout the States. And our culture is something that distinguishes us and makes us want to, our customer, our mission statement, which is unique, I think, has been make anyone who interacts with us love us. And we've lived that motto, and it's been something that has made us very successful over these past 30 years and continually on into the future.
Making your customers love you is a tall order. That can't be easy every day.
It certainly isn't, Mark. And I think Bill and Jim, when they bought this company, they recognized that, and they made the right decisions to empower our people to make decisions that are in the best interest of our customers and taking care of them. And I think they've seen the growth from that focus on our customers. Our growth has been great over these 30 years. And like I said, I think it started all at the top and with a vision of Bill and Jim.
Well, if you think about the fastener marketplace, I mean, that's a pretty mature industry. I mean, that's been a mature industry for at least 30 years. And in mature industries, typically sort of growth rates of 1 to 3% annually for mature industries. My understanding is Field has grown, significantly faster than that. What kind of growth have you guys seen, or since you've been there?
Yeah, so in the past 15 years, we like to say, and it gets harder to keep that rate, which was at one point 20%. We were having 20% year-over-year growth. Certainly slowed down. I would say on average, we've probably been averaging anywhere between 10 to 15 these past 2 to 3 years. COVID certainly had an impact on that, but we expect to get back to that growth between 10 to 15 over this coming year. And again, that's through customer loyalty, taking care of our customers, and then of course organic and some acquisition growth.
So when you look at the mandate you have, and in fact, I went and looked at your website, and there's a list of values that your company lives by called Fieldamentals. And number 2 is deliver legendary service, where it talks about in all situations act in the best interest of your customers, even if it's to your own short-term detriment. And the empowerment that you talked about to amaze customers and create loyalty. do you feel that that's one of the drivers of your growth?
Absolutely. Those fundamentals, I would say those fundamentals roll into what we call our culture, and those start at the top, and it works its way down through the organization. And that's what those fundamentals are kind of the guidelines of how we interact, not just only with our customers, but with our team members and also our suppliers, right? They're just as important. Our suppliers are just as important as our customers. And so are our team members. So it kind of sets the tone that that's the way that we are going to interact with everybody in the entire organization. And when we have customers come in, we love to have customers come and experience that culture and really get to know who we are and what we believe. And it's certainly that focus on our customers, that fundamental. There's 30 of them, as you mentioned. There's delivered legendary service. There's subject matter experts. We've encapsulated what we want to try to convey to the customer, that we want to be your fastener distributor. We want to be basically, like I said, the mission statement: interact with us. Everyone who interacts with us, love us. It's just trying to do the right thing at the right time for the customer. Even like doesn't matter. And it just builds those relationships. And I think we've had numerous customers that have moved on from one position to another, from one company to another. And because of that relationship that we've built, and the fact that we do care and we will bend over backwards and do what we can to supply you what you need on time in the right quality, have brought us into other organizations, and that's again contributed to that overall growth over the past 30 years.
Oh, that's really powerful. So when I think about that level of customer engagement and customer service, especially in such a transactional world that we live in today, and in the fastener world, I mean, if you want to talk about lots of transactions, you guys must do tons and tons of transactions to be able to support what your customers need. How do you give your team the time to do that, yet remain price competitive in such a transactional world today?
Yeah, I mean, Mark, it's through, when I look at it, what my role is to automate, right? And that's another one of our fundamental is continuous improvement. We want to continually improve the way we do things, the way we interact, the way that we process orders, the way that we ship orders. So again, this kind of is into that cultural field of continuous improvement and innovation. And it's teaming up with the right people, the right partners, the right technology to make these processes smoother, faster, and better. And, Connexium has certainly played a large role in that. And you alluded to it earlier. If I remember correctly, we went live on Auto Order back in what was called Auto Order or Connexium through Epicor back in 2011. So we've had this focus since we started this transition and this journey. And technology is changing at such a rapid pace these days. It's hard to keep up, but boy, we always want to do more with less and through the use of technology. And I think that's been our, from my standpoint, that's been our game going forward. Continually improve the processes today to drive that transaction volume.
So if I'm going to play this back to you, kind of what I'm hearing is that the investments you make in technology are designed to free up your staff time so that they have more time to spend interacting with your customers and giving them that really the best in class customer experience. Is that the right way to think about it?
Mark, you absolutely said that more elegantly than I, and yes, thank you. Absolutely. We are trying to free our people up from doing repetitive tasks, things that don't add value. We want to focus on being the best source, having the best quality, making sure our product is on time. And if you're just doing orders and mundane tasks that can be automated through technology, we certainly want to do that so that we can focus on those tasks that drive value not only to our organization, but to our customers.
Now, when I think of fasteners, I think nuts and bolts and rivets and those kinds of things. And they might, like when you first think about it, it might seem pretty inconsequential, like it's just this little piece. But when I think about it deeper, that supply chain actually keeps your customers' factories running. Like if that fastener isn't where it needs to be at the right time, they got to shut the line down. Am I thinking about it the right way?
You absolutely are, and that has happened. And you mentioned earlier this delivered legendary service. We've done all sorts of things. Whether it's we've chartered a private plane to make sure that someone doesn't have a line down situation. We've had our team members volunteer to come in. They heard, hey, the customer is exactly in that situation. They're starting to ramp up, didn't plan appropriately, but our team said, hey, we're not going to let these customers down. They require these parts. We'll work on the weekend to get these things out to them. overtime, whatever it takes. We've got numerous stories and numerous examples of getting that or avoiding that situation for our customers. And then again, kind of showing them the love so that they can appreciate our partnership a little stronger.
Well, I mean, those are huge investments in making sure you deliver that on time in full, delivery promise to your customers. So if we look at our journey together from a technology perspective, I know when we first started, you were one of our first customers in the Epicor channel, and integrating into the Profit 21 ERP system was, one of our very first ERP engagements in the mid-market, certainly in distribution. And it's been a really good relationship over the years. When I think of starting with that, when we first started, I think we were basically taking orders that were coming in by email and turning them into EDI-like orders for you and pushing them into Profit 21. And if there were any problems with those orders, you were resolving them inside your Profit 21 interface. And how long did we operate that way? I think we operated that way for almost 8 or 9 years. Is that?
Yeah, you absolutely are focused, and you're absolutely right. That's exactly how we did it. And it's just been probably in the last year or so that we started looking at utilizing some more technology from the Epicor side, the Profit 21 side. There's some Profit 21 customers on board that are listening to this. It's on the API side. We had to kind of wait for Epicor to develop that and open that up so that we could program against it. And then, of course, your team has been able to develop against it, your group of developers. And we're kind of heading down that path, exactly what you alluded to. And it's been about 8 or 9 years that we've been doing that.
So when you talk about using the Profit 21 API, this is kind of a trend that we're seeing, and maybe you guys are heading this way yourselves. The trend we're seeing is people want to make sure that the data that goes into their ERP system or their system of record is clean when it goes in. They don't want faulty data going in because, I mean, let's pick a use case. You're going to sell a product to a customer, and your system says you're going to have so much on hand to deliver. But if that data is not right, then you've got a real problem in being able to fulfill.
Absolutely. We're trying to catch those things before they get into P21. So what you're kind of this My Editor, we want to start flagging orders prior to them coming into the system so we can be alerted to those ahead of time. Specifically for us, it's a lot of price discrepancy. We want to take a proactive action. Our customer is sending over a PO with some quantities on it and a price, and we're doing a comparison. We want to compare what our system says the price is and what their price is. And then if there's an issue, get on the phone with the customer, let them know, hey, maybe yours is $1, but really it should be 80 cents. So we want to be not only plus or minus, but I think the customer appreciates that. It's kind of something that, hey, you're going to get this invoice. It stops invoicing problems on their end, receiving issues on their end. Make sure that our product flows into their system at the appropriate time and then the appropriate method. So absolutely, we are starting to leverage that, catching it outside of P21 or our ERP, but doing it through the Connexium process by having Connexium in its cloud-based solution call into P21's API, validate those prices, quantities, part numbers, and find those discrepancies ahead of time so that we can deal with them before they get into the ERP.
Yeah, that's been a really big motion that we've seen, people wanting clean data going in. So when it is clean, now it can go in touchlessly, so your people don't even have to attend to it. So it sounds like we've almost moved to the motion where it's a managed by exception motion.
I would absolutely agree with that, Mark. And we've seen that. And, we're very, very cautious of, when we bring these orders in, how do we do them? We have, and I like to use a term that you used, that you gave me probably many, many years ago, called lights out processing. We do that with some of our customers from a consignment standpoint. We have some consignment in some of our customers' facilities that we just bring those orders in. Nobody touches them. Nobody creates a pick ticket. It's automatically brought in from an order standpoint, generated into an invoice, and we're done with it. Lights out processing, I think that was a term we used probably 10 years ago. I got it from you, and I've never let it go. I was like, that's perfect. No one is touching this. It's coming in. We validate the prices are correct. And 9 times out of 10, the 99% they are. And that kind of goes to that exception. If that 1% that it is, we'll flag it before it gets in, because there's all these processes that are tied to it that automatically take it from an order to an invoice. We want to make sure those pricings are correct before they get in the system, but normally they are. We process them, and again, lights out. No one's touching them. We're putting value into it, and those are, for us in our organization, those are thousands of lines a year that used to take time, effort, and energy. And we used to have a person just dedicated to downloading these consignment reports, manually entering them and processing them. We've freed that person up to focus on more value added tasks.
So thank you. That's really good background. So when you look at, the journey you've gone on from a data perspective, I know there's other options for processing orders from customers. So, EDI is an option. I know you use EDI with your suppliers. And some, like we work with you on the AP process as well. So I understand you've got some suppliers on EDI that you're doing an EDI AP process, but you also have a bunch of suppliers that are just sending you, let's say, emailed order acknowledgments and emailed invoices. How are you using Connexium in that environment? And, do you see any conflict between those channels?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say we see a conflict. I would, our team, to be quite honest, would prefer to use Connexium versus the EDI standpoint, because the EDI, when we first went down this road, and like I said, we were on Connexium in 2011, you didn't actually have the AP portion done yet with the partnership with Epicor. So we were looking at it, and we had such great value on the order side. We said, man, this would be great if we could do it on the vendor side. And we picked our top 10 suppliers and reached out and said, do you support EDI? It's a couple of years later, and I think it was, if it was 2011, we did the orders. I think it was 2016 that we started doing AP, and maybe 18. I can't remember exactly the date, but we'd already started doing those top 10. And boy, doing EDI with your top 10 vendors it's a process. There's a lot of mapping, going back and forth. Does this flow? Does that flow? And when you guys offered us the AP automation, we were like, absolutely jumped on it, took care of it, because it just simplified that process. So again, like you alluded to today, we get a lot of those emails. We started out, when we looked at this, with 40 vendors that we didn't have on EDI. We have now increased that just recently in 2020. And we're going to move that to 100 vendors where we can just get these APs in. And again, Epicor and P21 has a process for bringing in invoices, doing a plus or minus 10, a check to say, hey, can these flow all the way through as long as the product's been received? It has been a huge time saver for us. Our AP group is ecstatic, and they look to see, is there any any vendor that's got high volume that's sending us email invoice that we can move to this process. Our vendors don't know we're doing it because it's not important to them, right? We just want to have the email. We tell them, please make sure you send us an email. It comes into our AP inbox. We set up some business rules. It sends it out to Connexium, gets processed, and we bring it in. Huge time savings from our standpoint to keep the number of clerks that we need to have down to a minimum, and just do more with less. And I would say, as we all kind of transitioned to home during this last year from COVID, it was, we had some people reach out, how do you guys do it? How are you using automation? And automation has gotten a big boost because of COVID and people not being in the office and moving more towards a digital transformation of receiving invoices electronically. Great. How do we take it to the next step of taking those electronic invoices and getting them into our systems? And we were already doing it. And we certainly, like I said, just recently increased the number during COVID to cover more vendors for us.
So if I'm hearing you right, from a field perspective, whether it's coming in by EDI or by email, or however your vendor or your customer wants to send it to you, you don't have a challenge in terms of being able to automate it and take advantage of it.
No, I would say not. Again, it's not a perfect magic bullet. There's always going to be these certain suppliers or vendors that can't do certain things. Maybe the PDF isn't a handwritten. We still get a couple faxes and some strange things. But that you mentioned, our industry is very old and old school, so they've slowly started transition. But absolutely, we're always looking at our vendors, if they're a top vendor, if they send a lot, if we're buying a lot of lines, to automate. Absolutely, whether it's EDI or Connexium. Again, I would say our group and my focus is, hey, Connexium is a lot easier than doing EDI. Let's bring it in. It kind of comes in that same process, but the mapping, the going back and forth, did it get delivered? That process is very simple and easy to turn over just to our AP clerks to make those decisions as to who belongs on Connexium, and how do we leverage it?
Okay, well, that's super helpful. Now, you talked about COVID and sort of the world that happened with there. Yeah, I'm sure it impacted all parts of your business. So I've heard from a lot of people that it disrupted supply chain a fair bit, for certainly for a period of time. I think things are improving now. Did you experience some of that as you guys were, working through the first parts of COVID?
Yeah, I would say that when COVID was starting to happen, that we saw a ramp up in people trying to get more stock into their buildings, and so they did a little bit more purchasing ahead of time. I would say now that we're a year into it, and I think you can see it in every vertical, in every industry, you're seeing the ports are congested. You can't get things from the port, and we do a lot of overseas buying and bringing things in. We're seeing that the supply chain is under pressure right now. So it ramped up in March of last year, kind of had a year of kind of a lull, but now things are really ramping up. And, and again, it's every industry thing, boats. If you watch it and you've seen the pictures of the ports and what's going on at Long Beach and Houston and how things are backed up, you can certainly see that the supply chain is kind of trying to turn that faucet back on and make sure they've got product in the chain.
So when you think about it, that gives me some good insight as to why you've now started to want to work with us on vendor acknowledgements, because it sounds like you're wanting to capture earlier in the process when that emailed acknowledgement comes in, being able to automate getting those signals to see if they match what's in your ERP. So is that truth really true, or is there something new that's happened that's going to cause you to change your view of when you're going to get product?
Absolutely, and of course, there's additional fees, and of course, late. For us, we need to make sure that our customers have their product on time, which means that our suppliers need to supply us on time. So those order acknowledgments that we're getting in, we're generating many, many more POs as customers are starting to ramp back up because they're exiting COVID. They're generating demand for us, which is generating demand for our suppliers. So when we place our POs, we need the order acknowledgement to say, guys, are you going to hit these dates? Can you confirm to this, to this particular date, and keep that information updated in our ERP so that we always have kind of that view of what's going in our supply chain, and are we going to be able to deliver to our customers? And if not, we'll need to pivot, make changes, source from somebody else, and how do we do that and try to keep on top of it?
Now, I think you guys have a really interesting business model with how you support your customers. When we spoke in preparation for this, I learned something new about your business. You have account managers that are responsible for servicing a client or a group of clients. And those account managers are not only your customer service representative, but they're also the purchasing organization for those accounts. So if a customer of yours has specific product needs that's moving up or down, or additional requirements that you hadn't seen before, that account manager is responsible not only for ensuring to serve your customers from a taking the orders in, but also making sure those orders are fulfilled. So there's a huge pressure on their time to be really on top of things, or your customer experience is going to suffer.
Absolutely, that's absolutely. We thought many years ago, Bill and Jim, the two owners of the company, said, "Hey, the best person to service our customers is also the person to buy the product. They're going to be the ones that are closest to it, know what's moving fastest, know what's starting to slow down, have that visibility, and make sure that we can accommodate to it, and make sure that we're directing to it." And it was definitely a transitional change. Many years ago, we had a purchasing group and an account management group, and then when we merged them together, it was a little bit tough at first, but absolutely, it has been very successful for us. I think our customers will appreciate it, whether they knew that it happened or not. They have a one-stop shop in that particular account manager to say, "Hey, I need to buy something. We're ramping up over here. Can you place these product? When do you need it?" Great. And then our team then communicates to the supplier and drives to those dates and makes sure that our product gets here when it's supposed to. So I would say it's been a successful model for us. Expediting, getting things. Again, it's not perfect. We're not perfect, but we strive to be. We strive to make sure that even if we have challenges, our customers don't feel that pain. And again, that goes. Our customers are number one focus, but I would say our vendors are darn near to the top of that list as well, because without them, we wouldn't be successful either.
So when you think about the journey that you've been on, a lot of people that maybe at different stages in their digital transformation journey, and feeling pressure from new entrants into the wholesale distribution market like Amazon, who are coming with a different approach to doing it. A lot of people are worried about the impact this will have on their culture within the company. Like, how will my team feel about automation? It sounds like your team is really positive to automation today. Was it always that way, or what did the company have to do to help them really, understand that this is to actually enable or enhance them to do their job better? They weren't looking to be replaced.
Yeah, I would say, Mark, it started at the top. Jim has always been, has always had a focus on systems and in general setting continuous improvement. I think it came from him to say, listen, we're going to automate and systematize as much as we can. But guys, what we're doing is we are taking these tasks and we're going to repurpose you to something that adds more value. We're just taking away the stuff that just adds zero value to your day that we can automate so that you can focus on what we want you to focus on, which is generating more profitable, valuable sessions for the customers. And I don't think it wasn't something that was hard for us to take. And when you kind of have an account manager and you can kind of go to them and say, hey, I see, let me just ask you something. Are you spending an hour or two? Oh yeah, I'm just entering orders. I got to download it from the portal. We have some very large customers that doesn't matter how you do it. You're going to go to our portal. You're going to enter these 100 lines and, per order. And you go and talk to them and you say, hey, does that really help? Or would you rather just kind of send that off and get it off your list because there's 99 other things that you could probably be doing? It's a real easy sell. I guess it wasn't a hard sell for our team. They could kind of see it because we did have a laundry list of things to continue down. This was just one getting it off their list, and they could buy into it and see the difference. So it wasn't a problem. And again, it's great that Amazon has this e-commerce site, but I think for us, it's the relationship that we're building with the customers. Great. Hey, you're not entering these orders anymore. Get on the phone with your customer and talk to them. What do they need? What are you guys doing? How are you planning? How's your business going? Let us know so that we can make changes on our end to make sure we can account for that. So just frees up that time to have more business reviews, more time in front of the customers, to have these one-on-one chats. And it's been great. So again, in the end, we still got to manage inventory, right? We don't want to have too much. We don't want to have too little. We don't want to end up with slow moving. So that allows us to focus on those tasks that can drive revenue and growth for the company.
Well, thanks, Chad. Listen, I can't believe it, but the time has flown. We're almost at the half past here. So I'm going to move to wrap this up. But I wanted to sincerely thank you for your time today. This has been a really interesting conversation. Now,